Hello and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Today we are joined by Gina Econ. Welcome to the room, Gina. How are you this evening?
Very good, Eri. It's great to be here.
Thank you. You like my applause? Most people giggle when
Yes.
it comes up.
No, did you hear my applause? I was applauding too on my one. So I join you. I join your applause.
Wonder. I have sound machines, but I rarely get to use anything but my intro and the clapping. So I do enjoy those too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is. I enjoy it. Now, Gina, you've lived such a multifaceted life, from large family living to convent, and now serving as an end-of-life doula. Now, looking back, would you say what is the most defining chapters that shaped who you are today?
Oh, wow. I think my whole life. I think I really do. I believe I went through a lot of chapters of my life, a lot of pain and suffering, good times in between. And then finally coming to a place that brought me into the rooms of AA. I'm in recovery, and I think that's what has took me. Which I mean, of course, I could have used the rooms 30 years ago, but I had to go through experiences of trauma and different grief, losses and pain, and eventually it defined me because today I realize, wow. I'm an alcoholic. I have 10 years of sobriety, so it's been a great life for me today. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't change anything in my past, even through it all. I would not change it.
That's quite a bit of growth, though, to admit your struggles.
Yeah, because there was a point in my life I would say around 12 years ago. There was a point in my life that I thought my purpose was to suffer, was to be in this dark place. And there was a point that I resigned to it. I was like, okay, I suffer, God. I suffer. Yeah, like you had shared. Yes, I was a Catholic nun for 12 years, and I thought that was my life for the rest of my life because I made final vows, but yet I suffered tremendously. I experienced mistreatment, rejection, a lot of pain, and I was totally lost. I got kicked out. And so my journey continued, thinking that, okay, here I married God, right? I joined and now, mind you, I'll kind of back up because when I was in my teenage, my dream was to get married when I was 18 and to have at least 5 kids by the I turned 25. That was my dream. That was my hope. And that's what I wanted. Like any other child, girl, right? That's our dream, is to marry your prince. And went to college. My prince wasn't there. I was with many frogs, never a prince, as they would say. But yet that's where I, got into the drinking and the drugs, and I was a great pool shooter, etc. And so here I continue my life. I become a bartender. So, okay, maybe I'll find my prince in the bar. But, and that never happened. And I was living with my parents at this time, in Pennsylvania. They had retired and they moved to PA. And then my mom was diagnosed with cancer during that time, and she died. She died 5 months later, and I was 23 years old. So I would say that was the first chapter, like trauma in my life. Like, oh my God, what is death? And I took care of my mom, my dad too, and I didn't save her. I couldn't save her. I was playing God.
That's the hardest thing, is knowing that you can't.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that at that time. And I was raised Catholic, So I should have known that about a God in my life, but yet I received all my sacraments. But in college, I swayed around from the church. Jesus is not cool. God is not cool. I believed in them, but I didn't need them. Mom gets diagnosed. Okay, now I do need you, God, and heal my mom. I'm back in church. I'm praying these Hail Marys, and my parents were very devout. But my mom's story was that she died at the age of 67 from bone cancer, with me being by her side, and my dad and other siblings too. And then I went into like a real dark hole. Now I'm looking really for the purpose of life. And I went back to my Catholic roots, and that's where I had a real aha conversion moment. I came back, to Jesus, to God. I'm like, wow, there is a heaven. There is a heaven. And that's why I joined the convent. I went into the convent. So my life was always about searching, and it was always like quick, just running. I was a runner. I was runner. I mean, being in a convent is good, right? You're getting close to God, but yet it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I was just grasping for straws because I today I in hindsight, who was I running from? I was running from Gina. I was running from that little
Mhm.
girl inside me. I was running because I was insecure. I was a fearful child. I didn't like myself. I was trying to fit in. I didn't feel like I was fitting in. Granted, my family was very loving, from a large family, but yet I did not feel like I fit into anything outside my family. And so I thought the sister was it, but that wasn't it. Then my life continued. So I guess, I was trying to fit in and to find that little girl inside me.
I can relate. Um, similar similar briefing things in my life, but probably not till way later. I was definitely not my 20. I was more like, my 50s. And, um, similar in a sense too that, I lost my sister,
Um,
this last year. Um, she passed, about a year and a half after my dad.
wow.
And yeah, so and my
Sorry to hear
mother
that.
well, thank you. My mother lives, across from me from my she shed in her apartment across our pool. And, it sounds more glorious than it is because it's just a little pool. It's just a little in-ground pool, but we like it. It's fine. Um, but, my sister struggled. Her liver went and
Wow.
had similar things, but she didn't admit that she had a problem. It was something our family always acknowledged, and, but she never did. She never, you know what I mean? She never went on the
Yeah.
road of acknowledgement. She was just like, "Oh, well. Oh, well," and, um, even when it came down to it, I didn't foresee, her leaving us in such a way, and we brought her ashes back here on the property. So, I can I can relate in a lot of ways with you. Um,
Yeah.
m
Go ahead, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No,
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 go
I like to
ahead.
hear yours. No,
Oh,
that no, that
okay.
no, yeah, I'm so
Well
sorry to hear that.
well, thank you. But for me, it's worked in reverse. My faith, um, has been more flown out the window since. And because things that also have happened in our world, we don't need to go outside of that, but I'm sure you understand what
Yeah,
I'm talking about. But a lot of
yeah,
things that are happening around us, and my faith, and because faith is used in ways that, you know what I mean, that are used
yeah,
in more manipulative situations, at least the way it appears nowadays. Um,
yeah,
but I've lost a lot of that. And it's very hard for
mhm.
me to hope I'm speaking some sort of relatable here,
Yeah,
but
no,
yeah.
go ahead.
So
No,
I'm like
I'm
the opposite of that. I'm opposite of what you were saying. You regained your faith as your mother became ill, but for me, I spent the time with my dad. I was there in and out. Both my sisters weren't able to be, so it was me. at the hospital the entire time, and, I spent a lot of time praying about it, and then I just thought it was not gonna happen again with my sister, and then when it happened, then I was just, like, crashed, you know what I mean? Just like
Yeah.
the world is and then everything that has happened since in our world, and it's very hard for me to get behind faith. It really is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to believe that there's something else beyond us, that there's a purpose, there's
Mhm.
a creation, there's this, there's that, but it has become extremely hard for me as the years have gone by lately.
Wow. Wow. You know, that what I hear from you, the first thing is that when you talk about your faith, it's a journey. And it
Mhm,
could be challenging. That's how I look at it. Yes, I kept my faith after being, the way I was treated by the sisters. I couldn't understand why. I could have easily lost my faith because I was isolated, etc. I'm like, okay, God, why are you doing this? And then as my life continued, I was still kind of holding on to it, and I went back to bartending because I was just tired of life and I didn't know what to do. And then in bartending, I did meet my prince, like I shared with you earlier. I was looking for my prince, and I met Danny in the bars, and I was like, wow. I said, here's a guy that loves me. We not at once in the beginning, but we dated and everything. But yet I came to find out that he was an alcoholic and he
mhm,
was drinking. And at this point, I'm not the alcoholic, and the disease, the alcohol was so far from me. I was in a denial my whole life about my own personal struggle and demons that, here I meet Danny. He's an alcoholic, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make him stop, to have him, and, enabling him, manipulating, whatever it may be. And he was trying because he wanted to stop. He found me. We were going to live a whole life together. And I was like, this is it, God, because he did find sobriety. He through a rehab, and it's like, yeah. And he was out west that when he found this. And then he came back. We were gonna end up like getting married out in Arizona and live a sober life together. And I was going to Al-Anon, but yet his story is that he ultimately died from the disease 2 years after I met him. So that was the death of my death. Like, as much as he wanted to stay sober and tried, just things happened in his life that he succumbed to it. And that's where, and I had shared earlier, that's where I was like, okay, the purpose of my life, of Gina's life, is to suffer, to be in darkness. And talking about faith and God, I hated God. I was just like, I can't believe this is happening to me. Why? Because, I kind of called myself Gina Y Economopoulos, because I questioned everything. And that was the most darkest, coldest time in my life.
yeah,
And but then in that, I come back to the Jersey Shore because Danny's story is a tragic story in itself, and so I come back to the Jersey Shore. I was just simply existing. I did not really want to live, but I wouldn't kill myself. I prayed every night that I wouldn't wake up the next morning. And when I did wake up, I
mhm,
said, oh crap, I got another day to live. I was like, okay, what do I do? I don't really remember the first maybe 1 or 2 years after Danny's death. I was in complicated grief. And then somebody invited me to go to the AA rooms to go to a meeting.
mm,
And I was like, okay, I'm going to go and see why these people are sober and Danny's not. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't, because Daddy was a great man, but his story was that, he was sick. I mean, they're great people, simply sick. That's how. So when I went into these rooms, I went there like every day, and then hearing other people, but I was very angry. Oh my God, I was so angry. I was in tears. I was resentful. I hated everyone. I always say to people that, that first meeting I went into, if ice could kill, everyone would be dead. That's how much anger I had towards these alcoholic sober people and alcoholism. I was so angry. But in a long, make a real long story short, that as time came on, as I listened, I was like, wow. And then my eyes opened. Oh my God, I am an alcoholic. And it was like, and that's when I had said on April 2nd, 2015, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. It just, it wasn't pretty because I was in so much pain. All that pain that I carried that I shared earlier, like I said, I was a runner, that I had, low self-esteem. I didn't like myself, hatred, all the traumas in my life, all the losses in my life that I couldn't handle, the sisters, everything, all that pain just opened up when I said I was an alcoholic. And then I know it was God that said to me, now, Gina, what do you want to do with this pain? Do you want to go drink it? Because that's what alcoholics do. We drink, we don't want to feel. Bottom line is we don't want to feel and we want to wipe it away. Or this voice said, or do you want to go to that, that sofa, that pity couch that you love so much to be miserable? And I'm like, no, or do you want to just, work a program and stay in the rooms of AA? And it wasn't easy, but through God's grace that I see now, it was him, but there was a time during that time I hated God big time and I had no problem
Yeah.
telling that to people.
I understand what you're saying. I really do. I don't think I have it in me at this point that I hate. I have just lost the push to throw myself into it, to believe, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
N
So,
But that makes totally sense. But you know what the key thing about that what you have is the willingness. Willingness is the key for anything. You don't
yeah.
realize it, but there is that willingness to look at it or whatever, to go a step further or not a step further, whatever it is. And
I
it's not go ahead.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, you went into AA on your own, right? You had the draw to do it. Yes?
It was because I was angry, because I was not
Right.
an alcoholic. It took me, put it this way, I said for 11 months, my name is Gina, the desire not to pick up. I did not identify myself as an alcoholic until like 10 months later. I am a slow learner.
Well, I haven't, I mean, I haven't had the same experiences, yes, but similar, but not
Yeah,
the same. For
no,
me, I had an eating disorder when I got married because I like you, we're probably in the same age bracket. I'm in my 50s, and you're raised to think that marriage and kids, this is the role in your life, especially as a woman. And
yes.
it certainly wasn't mine. It wasn't until I've reached these later years of my life, like, no, you're not telling me what I'm going to. But prior to that, that's what I thought. And so I got married at 19. I'm still married. We've gotten 30 something years together. Um, but, anyways, for me, I had an eating disorder. I felt for me, now, again, I didn't have the loss of family until later in my years, but at the time when I felt I had no identity, and the only thing I can control about myself before I sought, therapy, and I spent a couple years in therapy, which I would think similar to AA, reaching out for community, which I did that too. I was in community groups and stuff of same like-minded,
Yeah.
habits. And I think the biggest thing that you can do is acknowledge that there's an issue. Yes, you went out of anger, but slowly acknowledgement came into the part. Yes?
Yes. Yes, because there was a point. Yeah, I was going to the meetings every day faithfully, and I'm not an alcoholic. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, what's wrong with this picture? I did not see it. And the men and women of the rooms are just so kind. They don't tell you, or they don't say anything. They just welcome you. We come from all walks of life, and then, but a good friend of mine in the rooms had that I met in Al-Anon had said to me, "What is your relationship with alcohol?" And like I said, and that's where I had to look. Wow. Yes, alcohol. What was my relation? It was always around me. What did I do? I always ran to it. I always needed a drink. I couldn't stop drinking. I was the one who was the life of the party, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where, because it, it was my ego that wasn't letting me see that. I could have used the program 30 years ago. Even as a nun, the alcohol, the disease was so cunning, baffling, insidious that it was roaming in the convent. But yet I did not see it because I'm Sister Regina. I'm Gina Economopoulos. I can't be one of those, like this is
Mm.
my whole mind thinking was so upside down that I was like, no. And Danny's the alcoholic. He was drunk, blah, 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 like all that. And my eyes were upon everyone else. So when somebody said to me about my relationship, I was like, aha, aha. And then when I did say, finally, my name is Gina, I am an alcoholic, I didn't know where that came from. It was something in me. And then I was still questioning it. I'm not like this. I'm not like this. I'm not, yeah. But then yet, come to find out, yes, I am. I mean, it's that pain. It's that, it's those feelings that we all alcoholics or anyone, any addiction we have. It's like,
Yeah.
feeling lonely, being isolated, not fitting in, not being
Mhm.
comfortable in my own skin,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
I fully understand that one, yeah.
and yeah, and that's what really, believe it or not, drinking is only a symptom of
Mhm.
the disease. It's not like, I mean, drinking is the symptom. You have the manipulation, you got these behaviors that are really like maybe negative and everything like that. And then it goes with the drinking and everything. And then when you stop, when you put down the drink, you're like, oh my God, you got to look at yourself. You can
Yeah.
and you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be kind to others. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like a whole transformation, but it takes one day at a time. It's just being in the day, and it takes I mean, for me, I'm a slow learner. I was a slow learner, still am. I try to live in today, to be grateful. An attitude of gratitude goes a long, long way. In any in life in itself. Doesn't matter if you're
Right.
any kind of addiction or whatever
But
problem,
you've
Go ahead.
lose you've used the things you've learned in your life to now try to help others. You wrote a
Yes.
book,
Yes, I did.
Shake the Dirt Off Your Feet and Walk. So
It's
tell me a
shake
little
the
bit about this.
Yes, it's shake the dust off your feet and walk.
Ah, dust, there you go.
Yeah, dirt, dust, it's all the same. It's all but, well, you know what it is? It's what I've shared briefly with you on this show right now. It's going from my childhood throughout college and my feelings, thoughts, all the pain and the reason why I wrote this was because after Danny died, like I said, I was in such a dark place that somebody told me to write, and I started writing all the pain out. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of pain from the nunnery, from the convent that I never told anyone. I wrote all that out, and then,
Wow.
I put it aside. It was about 10 years ago, 11 now, and, I put it aside, and then I found my journey in the rooms, and then a couple years ago, a friend of mine says, "You should start writing now where you're at," because I wrote about 180 pages of pain.
Mhm.
Pain of life, and then I wrote more of where I am today, and so, I was encouraged to publish it to spread that message of hope and strength, so that's what the book is all about, and I'm also, as you had shared, I'm an end-of-life doula because, I love being with the dying.
Wonderful.
To be present, and that's a miracle in itself because, as I shared with you and as the listeners heard that, when my mom died, I was like, I had no faith, no hope, no love, and no God. And I have to say, when I've experienced that a few times in my life, and that is hell on earth when you don't have any of that. And now, through pain and suffering and, coming into the rooms, I do have faith, I have hope, I have love, and I have a God in my life. And I like to share with others, those that are passing from this life to the other, whatever faith they're at. They don't have to have faith. It's just being there and giving them that dignity to die, and being there for their families too, because I know grief well. Grief is my best friend. I didn't go to school for any of this. This is just through my life experience. So that is what my memoir is all about, and that is what I do today, to offer my service as an end of life doula.
I think that's actually exceptional. Something that pulled your life apart, is also mended you back and made you stronger. So I
Yeah.
find that extremely commendable, really.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. And it's
welcome.
and now in my eyes and my heart, it's God. It's like today I could live as a faithful, sober woman. It's a journey, but my faith
Yeah.
continues to grow. My faith continues to be challenged, as well as my sobriety, as well as God. I mean, but yet I'm in a space today that I know who Gina is. I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I could handle life on life's terms, no matter what, my best of my ability. And so, yeah, there's so much I've learned, and I am today, and it's okay. It's okay to be me.
So as you look ahead, what hopes do you carry, not only for yourself, but for those who have heard your story and may be searching for light in their own lives?
Well, I hope that whoever that it will touch at least one person, that to know that you're not alone, and that there are miracles, and not to give up, and not to be discouraged, and that there's somebody out there like me who's been through it. May not be through the similar experience, but we all have the same heart and the same feelings. And
Right.
and that's what we could identify with. We don't have to identify the experience, but hoping that somebody out there that feels like, wow, I am alone, but look at her, or something to that, that knowing that, that there's something in them that's greater than them, that will carry them through. And whatever faith or belief, as long as it's not you, I say.
Right. Well, I find it very commendable, that you have embraced something that, well, not just your faith, but something you lost. Now you've embraced it again to become stronger and out the end of it and be able to help those around you. I find it extremely commendable.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, all I know, and it does brings tears to my mind and heart, to knowing where I was and where I am today. And that, like I shared, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And I also know, I've also come to peace with Danny and his story. Granted, he died of the disease, of alcoholism, but that's not who he was, and that was his story. And he was, a great man, and I was able to reconcile and not to be ashamed about him or his death or anything, because that was God's story for him.
Right.
Danny, when Danny fell and died, and I look at it that he fell into the arms of his higher power, of his God. And what a great way to go.
He was more than his illness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the illness doesn't define any of us. And
No.
and sometimes, but it's kind of sad, because the world does not see it that way at times. So, but
It is. I think a lot of us struggle with some things and people don't fully understand. And sadly, when they have to walk down similar roads, the understanding becomes more enlightened. That's the sad part, that we have to reach the level where we have to walk similar roads to have that kind of compassion.
yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So true. I agree
I
with
want
you.
to
So
I want to thank you so much for being here. I don't think I had enough time to go into more depth.
that's
And
fine. That's
so
fine. It was a pleasure to be here.
But you're gonna have to come back because I think there are even more ways we could go at this story, even more avenues we could dive further into.
It sounds good to me. Let me know, and I would be more than happy to return.
Awesome. I'd love to have you back on. I really would. So now how can people reach out to you, Gina?
On my website, ginaecon.com. That's ginaecon.com. The book is on there, or you could go on Amazon, and you'll see a lot more of my stories, more in depth of my story in the book.
And for everyone who hasn't heard, if you're at the last bit of the podcast, the book is called Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. Thank you so much, Gina, for being with us this evening.
Oh, thank you so much. And to all your listeners too, thank you for listening.
Our pleasure. Thank you to our listeners. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye for now.